If you follow any F1 drivers on social media, you might have seen recently some videos such as this of George Russell cycling in a full waterproof tracksuit, or this of Carlos Sainz cycling in a sauna. It's not a good place to put a bike, Carlos, honestly. As weird as all of this might look, it is all being done for a reason, because this weekend is the Singapore Grand Prix, widely regarded as the toughest race on the calendar. But what makes it so tough? There's other street races, there's other night races, there's other street night races now. Surely this is just the same as those, right? Wrong. So firstly, the most obvious, but not the only, reason why Marina Bay is so difficult. Singapore has very consistent weather, and that weather is hot and sticky. The average temperature in October is 32 degrees Celsius, with an average humidity of 83%. That's a lot, but surely it gets colder at night when the race happens, doesn't it? No. These numbers can make pretty sticky weather for doing just about any activity, let alone putting on a full race suit and driving a Formula 1 car for 2 hours straight. For those of you who are not aware, sitting in the driver's seat of a race car on a dry day is normally a pretty hot place to be. Any of you who have been karting have probably experienced the seat getting quite warm in the middle of a session. That's because your arse is right next to an engine going full beans. A Formula 1 car is exactly the same, except this time the engine doesn't have 10 horsepower, it has 1,000. These are obviously quite efficient machines and they do have heat shielding, but there's only so much can be done, and they're trying to save weight where possible, so if you take away some of your heat shield and it makes your driver a little bit more uncomfortable, you're gonna do it. If any of you at home would like to experience what it's like, try putting on a full suit and then hugging the door of your oven for 2 hours. Something like that. Don't try that at home. Because of all of this, the experience driving around the Singapore Grand Prix becomes similar to getting into your bathtub, fully clothed, and then filling it up with your own warm sweat. Lovely. Still looking at physical factors, even without the heat, Marina Bay can be a pretty uncomfortable track just due to all the bumps. Street tracks are basically always more bumpy than race tracks, and Singapore is no different. On top of that, the rough ride around here doesn't just come from the tarmac. If you want to put in a fast lap, you're going to have to make friends with the curbs. The infamous Singapore sling is gone, but that doesn't mean there aren't other red and white boys around this place looking to rearrange your skeleton. If you want to go fast around here, and particularly in the third sector along the bayfront, you're going to have to jump some curbs. And believe me, slamming back down into the tarmac 61 laps in a row is not nice. Okay, so it's hot, it's sticky, it's bumpy, but at least it's a high concentration track which requires a huge mental workload from the driver. Okay, no, that's a bad thing. Marina Bay has 23 corners, the second most on the calendar, and has somewhere in the region of 56 gear changes per lap. That's a lot to think about, particularly when you're only a few centimeters from a wall at any given moment. For reference, Monaco has 19 corners and somewhere between 45 and 50 gear changes per lap. And that's not exactly a walk in the park mentally, is it? The sheer stress of driving around Marina Bay would be enough to age you about 10 years, I think. I get stressed just driving in the F1 games, and when I do it, it's not even particularly fast, and also there's no risk of my death, so I have no idea how these lads do it. Okay, so along with the physical discomfort, it's also incredibly mentally taxing, but at least it's over quickly, right? Singapore is the second slowest lap by average speed, beaten only by Monaco. However, unlike Monaco, the overall race distance isn't shortened to reduce the total track time. What this means is Singapore is the slowest normal length race on the calendar, and therefore also the longest. Almost 2 hours in the sweat bath. Nice. Okay, fine. So it's hot, it's humid, it's bumpy, it's mentally exhausting, it's long, but at least the drivers can go into it with a good night's sleep. Jet lag, baby! Drivers will typically arrive to Singapore on something like Wednesday. However, for the entire rest of the week until the race, they will continue to live on European time, doing everything in the evening because the race schedule is set for a European audience. What does this mean? You wake up every day at midday, you go to bed at 3 or 4 a.m, breakfast in the hotel when everyone else is having lunch, stay at the track until midnight, that kind of thing. It sounds alright for a day or two, but trust me, 5 days like this, and by the end of it, your body is gonna be unhappy. And then you go again, the sweat bath. And so there you have it. 5 reasons that make the Singapore Grand Prix around Marina Bay the toughest on the calendar. Of course, F1 drivers are professional athletes with lifetimes of training, personal trainers, personal chefs, personal assistants, all of these things to help them perform at their best. Despite all of this though, we do still see the Singapore Grand Prix tends to filter the very best drivers in the very most organised teams to the top of the list, such as obviously the official race lap record holder, Kevin Magnussen in a Haas? What? What's that? Mr. V, the guy from Mr. V's Garage on YouTube, is on Twitch. Wow. Yes, he is. Head on over to twitch.tv.com/theoriginal Mr. V to see him live in action. He'll be playing some racing games and also non-racing games. So games in summary, and also things that aren't. He'll be live. You can head on over and ask him questions about Formula 1 or designing cars or how he gets his hair so fabulous. That can't be right in the script. You can expect amazing highlights such as this.
Oh, I need to watch this stream.
Or this.
Nice.
Wow. Will he be keeping to a regular schedule? Head on over to twitch.tv.com, not .com, twitch.tv/theoriginal Mr. V. Please. Please. Please.